This time of year prompts a lot of reflection as people realise that time is flying by and their career, their personal life, their family might not be where they expected it to be. And then throw in a Christmas lunch with family and your mum asking why you haven't had kids yet. And it's a recipe for a lot of pressure and anxiety. So in today's episode, we wanted to dive into some of those things and offer solutions on how you can take control of 2025 and fix your life.
Well, maybe you can't fix all of the problems, but we'll give it a good crack.
We'll give it a decent crack.
Yeah.
Welcome to Becoming. My name is Nick Slater and I'm joined by my lovely girlfriend,
Zoe Markel.
And babe, let the people know how you're feeling. What's come up for you this year?
So I've decided this year I'm going to really prioritise my health and look into some possible food intolerances or gut problems, which I've been ignoring for too long because I love, as you know, bread, pasta, cheese, all the yummy things. But I don't think it's agreeing with me, and I've had some fatigue, some brain fog, some bloating. And
is that a new symptom that you've seen come on?
No. And yes, it has been for a while, and I was like, oh, it's probably fine. But I think the more I think about it, I should at least look into it a bit more.
Yeah, so we decided to do this cleanse. It's pretty intense. I don't think I realized just how much we'd have to change our life, change all of our eating. So essentially it's no caffeine, no alcohol, no processed foods and sugar for 30 days. But you also have to eat organic meat and veggies.
And basically no carbs.
Zero carbs. And so you can't really eat out. Every meal has to be cooked at home. And we've found that to be a pretty big adjustment. But would you say I've found it quite a fun challenge to try and work out what to eat, and we've learned so many new recipes. Well, you have.
Yeah, I've been doing all the cooking, thank you.
You cooked this delicious cake last night.
Yeah, that was yum.
It was all natural ingredients.
Yeah, which surprised me because there's no sugar in it. I was like, it's not going to be very tasty, but the alternatives that you can get from monk fruit and stuff, it was really good.
Yeah, it's been a huge learning experience, I think, and we've learned all these recipes and what we should actually be eating that we can one day pass on to our kids. I think it's just a really valuable thing. For me, the coffee, the no coffee is probably the most immediate withdrawal thing that I'm going through. It's so funny. Physically, I'm getting symptoms like headache, fatigue, and low energy. But also there's this behavioral thing where you didn't experience this because you've never really had coffee. But every time I'd go for a swim in the morning, I'd really get excited for that morning coffee. Or if I do a nice bath in the sauna, the coffee was almost the reward at the end.
Yeah.
But not having that, it makes me realize that I was using that cup of coffee as almost permission to be happy. And I was putting that happiness outside of myself. So an unexpected benefit of this cleanse is feeling that I don't need I need to sit with myself, need to sit with my feelings, and that I was using these external things to make me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Like chasing that feeling I get from the coffee, we are the source of that feeling, and just knowing that I have to sit with that now and feel enough on my own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think mine's more, I went to the doctors before Christmas and she said to eliminate gluten and dairy. And because this does that anyway, it's sort of a win-win. And then I'm so competitive that I'm sort of competing against you, and you probably don't know this, but I'm like, I'm going to win. I'm not going to crave first.
You are so good, because yesterday at the store, we couldn't find any bread that didn't have any wheat in it or seeds or anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe we just have the bread. And you're like, nope.
Nope, we're not doing this.
So I'm so proud of you for sticking through.
Oh, thanks, babe.
Do you think you'll last the 30 days?
There's going to be some challenges. We've got a 30th this Saturday on a boat, which will obviously be a lot of drinking. But I've never done a month no drinking in my whole life, which is kind of worrying. So it's going to be a good challenge. I think we're going to feel amazing after. It's going to be hard. And then I also, part of the cleanse is that at the end some parasites might come out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was how this cleanse became so popular. It's technically called a parasite cleanse. It's by the Corrective Culture boys who I've had on the show. And they've had so many clients do this cleanse and they pass parasites in the toilet. Things like liver flukes and other pretty nasty looking
tapeworm, ringworm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some sort of worm.
Some parasites, and you can see them in your stool. So stay tuned and we'll put up some photos of our stool.
Gonna have some pets soon.
I feel like it's been a really positive way to start the year and build momentum into 2025, because at the beginning of the year, and this is kind of the crux of the episode, I can sometimes feel quite left behind because I'm harsh on myself, I'm a harsh critic, and compare myself to where I want to be. Or you get home at Christmas and get asked 1,000 questions by your relatives about personal life or career. And so we've done a bit of research and found some solutions on how to move forward with that.
Mm-hmm. That famous quote, comparison is the biggest thief of joy. And I think for me, when I look ahead, when we start a new year, society makes me think in that should be a baby somewhere, getting on the property ladder, or where am I going in my career? But I think you need to understand what journey you truly want to be on, not what society wants you to be on. And again, I compare myself to my mum and where she was at 32. They were married, they had me, Henry on the way, they had a house. And, sometimes it does scare you, especially when, like you said, you get asked a lot by family, when's this on the card? And I think we just need to let them know that, in today's society, things are happening later. And then there's the money element about, should I be saving for a house, a wedding, traveling? Because you can't save for all three. And I think I need to understand what really lights me up and what journey I want to be on, not what I think I should. Yeah.
Is money a big one as well for you and your friends, just feeling a little bit left behind on the property ladder or with career and things like that?
Definitely, especially having moved here, I had to change my whole career and start again just to get a visa. So naturally, I compare myself to friends at home that have just been on their ladder the whole time. And, naturally they are higher above me, or they're in managerial positions now.
Yeah, because they didn't have to change their job for the visa. So they're being able to stick at the same thing.
Yeah. And so, probably on more money, and that's why they have the house and the new car. And I think I just need to stop comparing, get off Instagram and realize we're all on our own journey and things will happen for me when it's meant to.
Yeah, it is tricky. And I've got friends who stayed in our hometown in Brisbane, and generally they've moved ahead with kids and the car and the house. When I do go home to Brisbane and I see those things, I do feel a little bit left behind as well.
The other big one, being in your early 30s as a woman, is obviously the when are you having a baby chat. And it's not for everyone. I've got some friends that are happy not to, and that's so fine. And I think we should stop asking women that and expecting them to all want to have kids.
Yeah, do you remember it? Mum had a friend over the day after Christmas, and we'd met this lady for about 10 minutes, and the conversation hit a lull, and she looks over at Zoe and says,
square in the eyes, when are you having babies then? And I was like, oh gosh.
And we've been together 18 months.
Yeah. Like it will happen when we're ready, when we want to. And I think especially the older generation just need to understand that we are prioritizing other things first. We can have them later now because of health and medicine, things like that. Another example is a couple of years ago, I got my AMH levels tested, which is essentially a fertility test. And they came back quite low for my age. So I had to see a fertility specialist. And she basically recommended me to get my eggs frozen because at this time I was single and, I didn't know when I was going to meet someone. And I said that I wanted them. But the cost of that alone, paying for the injections, going through all the hormone therapy, then the extraction, and then you pay rent every month on your eggs to basically live in this freezer. So I just thought, hold on, is that where I want to put all of my money right now? I could meet someone soon. I want to focus on that. And then if I meet someone, that will come naturally after.
That must be a really common problem for women in their 30s, whether to freeze or put their attention into finding someone.
Yeah. Well, also the other thing is I didn't even really look into what AMH was too much. And I found out this year, it's been 5 days. The other day I found out that it's actually not about your AMH levels. That just tells you how many eggs you have, but it's all about the quality of eggs. So you could have loads, but they might be low quality, or you could have a few, but they're high quality, and it's probably about the same. So I think if anyone is listening to this, and I have a lot of friends that are worried about the same thing, just because you have a low AMH doesn't mean you're going to struggle to conceive. And I think that's such an important message that we should be taught about this in school, not, algebra and things that we never use.
Just for the record, what is pi?
3.3 recurring?
Close.
What is it?
3.14, I think.
I was going to say 3.1.
Anyway, I'm going to potentially stitch myself up here, but What about getting engaged and getting married? Is that common for a woman in her 30s comparing to your friends? And it seems like everyone gets engaged over Christmas time.
Yeah, I know.
Does that come up for you this year?
Yeah, there were a lot of engagements over Christmas and New Year. And I am so happy for my friends that did. Obviously, it's amazing news, but I think...
You're really jealous at the same time.
A little bit jealous. But no pressure. I want you to...
You want their marriage to fail?
No.
Come on.
No. A lot of women put pressure on their partner to propose, and...
Oh, yeah, imagine that.
I don't. I want you to do it when you're ready. And so I also want it to be a surprise. So I will manifest that it'll be this year.
Yeah, I love the idea of a surprise. Like we're going to get Macca's or something and boom, in the drive-through line is right there. Or we're out at Sizzler and I drop a knee next to the buffet. Something really special like that.
If that was what you want. And then my final point was sort of circling back to the career point. I have no intention now to climb the corporate ladder. I think when you're young, it's ingrained to you that you need to become a manager, a CEO, be a boss lady. And I don't want that stress. I don't want my whole life to be about work and killing myself to get to the top. And I read a quote recently that was saying, wealth is now defined by how much free time you have and your work-life balance. It's not about how much money you have, because you could be a millionaire, but you could work 6 days a week, long hours, and just be so stressed that you don't even have time to use your money. And that really hit home. And
Tim Ferriss talks about that, calls that the new rich.
Yeah.
So the new rich is having freedom of time. And the old system where you just work 40 hours a week, strapped to your desk all day, every day to earn retirement when you're 65 and you're too old to use it anyway.
Yeah. For me, again, it's prioritising that work-life balance.
Yeah, not to say corporate life isn't for some people. I've got mates who love it and they thrive in that environment. But this time of year is just a great time to reflect on what your dream is and what your purpose is and what really fires you up. And to do that, you just got to do a little bit of internal work and give yourself permission to discover those things. So I'll share some of the things that I think about at this time of the year as a 36-year-old male. Can you believe that? At the end of this year, I'll be 37.
You'd be closer to 40 than 30. Oh, you already are.
Yeah, already. Christ. And age has never really worried me until now. It's that 40 figure. I remember when my mum had her 40th.
Yeah, same. That's scary.
And it blows my mind to think that I'm almost knocking on the door of that. And to be honest, it is a bit scary because there are things and personal milestones that are expected to hit by that age. Yeah, so that new year, new you energy puts a lot of pressure on people because then they're comparing themselves to where they expected themselves to be. And new year also brings clarity with resolutions and reflections. It's easier to see the gaps between where you are and where you want to be. And I'm certainly one to judge that gap. So I judge the delta between current reality and dream reality, but I should actually be acknowledging the progress that I've made to get here.
Yeah, and that's where I think gratitude comes into it, which is another thing I've been implementing these past 5 days of the new year is gratitude and journaling every morning.
Look at you go. That's amazing. So another thing at this time of the year is opportunity overload. So we've got a completely fresh calendar. We might be inspired to do some new projects, some new side hustles, and you get an overwhelming feeling of opportunity. There's so many things you want to do and so little time. So that's another way that pressure can start to build. The turning of the new year is also just a stark reminder of how finite our time is. And when we have that timeline in front of us, we can immediately see that we're not where we want to be. For many people, it might be a feeling of not executing on their vision, not hitting their potential, or having that project that they've always wanted to do. So I've got some practical solutions to dive into to help address those and take back control. But maybe we provide solutions for the few problems that you mentioned.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I'll start by saying it's so normal to feel overwhelmed by all these expectations of a new year and societal pressures. I mean, I know that I feel it, and you do too. I saw on Instagram that 75 hard is out and 365 is in, and I really like the idea of small, consistent steps to help you, work towards more achievable goals, not just short, intense snaps of things and habits that you'll break afterwards, but creating more of a
Consistency, which goes against our 30-day cleanse a little bit.
Yeah, but that's different. That's like a parasite cleanse.
Yeah,
we're going to do that the whole year.
I feel like that's to reset our guts for the new year.
Yeah. Sometimes I think we look too far ahead. Even then, you're saying I'm nearly 37. Well, you're not. That's 10 months away. So I think we need to just stop sometimes, be a bit more present, appreciate how far we've come, the person we are today, what we've achieved, and stop living in the future.
Yeah. And I guess you've got to consider if those pressures are aligned with what you want or if they're imposed by others.
Yeah, which most of the time, for myself anyway, they are. They're what I see on Instagram, what I think I should want. Do I really want a mortgage at the moment? Do I want to get on the property ladder this year? Probably not.
Do you want a ring?
Yes. Do I want to travel? Yes. Do I want a baby right now? No. But I feel like society makes me think I should. It's really interesting when you properly look into what you actually want versus what you think you should want.
Yeah. Okay. So what would your life look like if you followed your own timeline and not society's?
Oh, good question. I think I would prioritise travel and making the most of being young and fit and healthy, because most people save their round the world trip to when they retire, but at that point you're old and you probably can't climb Machu Picchu. So we need to prioritise doing things like that now, and then it would be getting engaged and then probably having a baby, but not anytime soon if society didn't make me think I had to.
Yeah. I had that thought yesterday when I was preparing for this and realized how fucking old I am. I was like, wow, I actually, life is just going so quickly, and I put so much focus on having good routine and being effective with work. But if I was to really think about what I'd look back on as a successful life, I think it would include more travel, more experiences like that.
Yeah.
So let's make that a priority.
I think so. I mean, looking at last year, I went to New Zealand, South Africa and Europe. They are probably my best memories from last year. And yeah, I think let's stop worrying about what other people are doing and what other people think of you and do what really ignites you. I mean, at the end of the day, we're only on this planet once. Do what you want to do.
Just a problem that flights are so damn expensive.
Yeah, Jesus. When are they going to come back to pre-COVID times?
So what solutions would you have for any friends or listeners who might be feeling pressure around motherhood?
Well, I think motherhood, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone is on their own journey. And I think we just need to take away the pressure of having babies in your 30s. Like I said before, a lot of people are now having it in their 40s. And if travel is really important to you, do that first and then have a baby. Yeah, I've got friends that are late 30s, early 40s who have just had their first, and they're loving their path and the way they did it, and they're so happy, and everything's been a smooth sail for them.
Yeah, and I guess just have faith that it'll happen when it's meant to happen, right?
I think as well as we start the new year and we are putting into place those healthy habits or dry January, it's important to also understand boundaries and how you're going to set them. So be prepared if, friends say to you, oh, why are you not drinking? Or come on, just have one. Something like, I'm just focusing on things that feel right for me right now, and surround yourself with those friends that do understand and uplift you and who will help you on this journey, not the ones that are going to try and make you break it, That's
a pretty good sign. It kind of weeds out the good friends when you try and make an upgrade in your life.
Yeah.
The real friends are the ones who support you and support your evolution.
Yeah.
And sometimes when those friends feel threatened and they back away or they might make a comment, that's a pretty good sign that maybe they're not your go-to friends. Maybe just put them on the shelf a little bit.
It's so easy in the age of social media to get wrapped up in other people's journeys and their milestones and what they're doing. But I think use the new year to really understand and reflect on what matters most to you. What brings you the most joy, the most purpose, the most connection.
and not just what the local influencer is doing.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been talking enough now. What solutions do you have for the problems you were chatting about earlier?
So I spoke about feeling left behind with career. And part one, and this sounds counterintuitive, but you actually have to be grateful for where you're at. Because unless you're grateful and you understand that you are the source of your happiness and fulfillment, you're always going to be chasing something else. And the irony of this is that once you feel whole, just like a single person dating, those external things that you were chasing will actually come to you. So yes, you can have appreciation for what you have, but also be wanting more for yourself. And Dan Martell calls this being blissfully dissatisfied, where you're blissful with what you have, you've got a beautiful home, you've got a beautiful family and a job, but you're dissatisfied. You always want to push the needle and improve. And that's what life's about. It's always about creating something more for ourselves. So I guess the risk of people feeling left behind is that they're not grateful for where they're at. And that really is an important part of this. If you, for example, let's take someone's bank account. If they've got a low balance and they hate that low balance and they have negative feelings towards that, it's very likely that they'll just continue behaviors that reinforce that low balance. So what you need to do is love your bank account for where it's at, even if it's not where you want it to be, because those positive feelings around money are going to attract more of it. You got to do things that have a positive feeling around money. So that's what I'm trying to remind myself when I feel left behind. Be really grateful for where I'm at and all of the wonderful things that happened last year, but also be specific about where I want to go. And that brings me to the next point. We really need to measure for success. So at this time of the year, it's really helpful to get specific with your goals, pull out the journal, write how much money you want to make each month, write the business goals. Because, and I'm guilty of this as well, a lot of the time we just have these ideas floating in our head, but until we write them down and we can measure them every day, there's no chance of hitting that. When we write these goals down and we can measure them each day, just like a gym program, you're following incremental gains, success is inevitable. So you're always going to reach those things. And the third part of this is for those people who feel like they're not executing on their dreams. And I've spoken to so many of our friends who have that project or have that dream goal in mind that they're not executing on out of fear or out of limiting beliefs or whatever it may be. And there's a wonderful quote by Joseph Campbell: "The cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." So it's often the things that we're scared of most that are going to unlock the most success for us. And it's because of limiting beliefs or whatever baggage we're carrying is that we're too scared to do it. So this is the year that you enter that cave that is the most scary. I really want to encourage people to take steps towards their goal, because if it is bringing you a lot of fear, provided it's not something dangerous, there's probably a good reason for that. And it's because you need to do it. It's going to bring you success and the fulfillment that you seek. And for those who might be struggling with purpose, Dan Martell also talks about our purpose being found in our darkest days. And what do I mean by that? For me, two things come up. So my purpose with this podcast and with my content is to spread healthy relationship advice. And that was born out of my darkest days in my 20s when my relationship broke down and I hit rock bottom. And the other thing I'm really passionate about is living a healthy and long life. So I love longevity and I love creating content on that as well. And that was born out of the darkest days when my dad died of brain cancer. So you can see how those dark days really provide great lessons. And a lot of the time, that's where people's purpose come from. So if you are struggling with it, maybe think about some of those dark days. So back to the fear thing, the world really does reward people who lean into their fear and act courageously. So this is your year to identify your purpose, do the thing that scares you, and take a chance. And the third thing I'll say is work from a place of contribution. The thing that really moved the dial for me was when I stopped working for myself or for some monetary gain, but with every piece of content, run it through the lens of how can I add maximum value for people? And when you do work from a place of contribution, having a powerful why will exceed that fear and allow you to keep moving forward.
Nice.
And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Most importantly, remember that the trick to all of this, just like dating, is that once you find wholeness within and realize that you are the source of abundance, fulfillment, and love, You don't need to chase anymore because life will begin to bring you all of those external circumstances that you've been chasing.
That's lovely.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, well, we should probably wrap it up there. It's been about half an hour of you talking.
Well, if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe, do all the things. Share it with a friend. Fuck it. You're feeling generous.
It really helps.
Helps us get on the algorithm to appease the YouTube overlords.
Thank you, Lords.
Give us bread.
Don't give us bread.
Give us...
Because I'm gluten-free now.
Because you'll be in the toilet.
Excuse me.
I love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.